This is technical difficulties day, guys.
It's gonna get quiet, but then it's gonna get real loud. Or at least there. I think it's manageable now. There we go.
Oh, the camper. Man, that's good. The camper and the Kickstarter. That would be a good bus. Yeah, Elwindale. Yeah, we should have a mallet up here. Actually, even better than a hammer, I like my big rubber paint department mallet. That's the best hammer to hit something with, in my opinion. More hamsters. Okay, how are we on sound?
It's really.
Yay! Everybody's like, yay!
But don't scream whatever you do.
I'm not screaming. They can hear me. That's important. I mean, considering how my voice is, if you can't hear me when I'm across the room from you, something's wrong. Yeah, dead blow hammer. That would be good, too. Bring the paint department mallet up and show you. It's like a 2-pound rubber mallet. It's a dead blow hammer because we have to hammer on the lids of the paint buckets. So, yeah. All right, so cool. So we are going to paint some red. Oh, wait, is the light on of this little guy? Yeah, I guess it is. Oh, and that's
just not on the double
It just
light.
seems so dark. It always seems dark in here because at home I have like 2 of these giant light boxes that we have only 1 of, and it's like all right here. So when I do my videos for my Patreon, it's always like super bright on my workspace. But as long as the camera can pick up the stuff, we're good. Good morning, Surrender It All.
Also, real quick, now that we can get to kind of the normal announcements.
Yeah, Justin's got to announce at you.
So I saw you guys talking a little bit about.
And meanwhile, I'll base coat. So
yes, a couple of different things. The stream, I was actually in the middle of adjusting the stream dates on the bottom of the stream.
Adjusting
the stream announcement. Not announcement. The schedule at the bottom. So no need to send an email. I was literally in the process when I saw you guys talking about it. Also, the Frost Giants should be shipped today. I know you guys are curious about that as well. But kind of as Rax pointed out, it's with this growth of the shows on top of intros and assets and all the other millions of things.
And fixing people's random computers that we need for sculpting.
Correct, yeah.
That happened yesterday.
One of our sculptors yesterday, in-house sculptors, their computer basically bricked, and I had to replace
Justin is the tech rescue guy as well. Yes, we all wear so many hats here at Reaper is what it comes down to. So if something's delayed, like shipping something out, please forgive us. We really are trying to get to it. But some stuff is just urgent, and we have to do it right away.
I will say, hopefully when we switch to this new studio and we end up with like 1,500 square feet for just the studio, it'll be nice, and we may end up with a couple of extra employees in the department.
And then you could totally make them your male hamsters.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So if we have any videography interns who want to work for Just Paint and Minis, no.
I hate to say that, but people have ended up getting jobs at Reaper specifically because they just volunteered in their free time, and then we just assumed they were working for us, so they just got added.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so that is all obviously no free right now. Free is at 3 o'clock.
Yes, free is a 3 o'clock thing. Eventually, is it free o'clock?
Free o'clock.
Free o'clock, yes. There you go. So when you think free, it's free o'clock. Eventually, we may do something cool for this show. We're thinking about it. But we may do something like super special cool and just do it every once in a while. Maybe it'll be like a Pavlov's dog thing where they have to keep doing the trick, and then eventually they get rewarded, and then it'll be like a surprise. Maybe we should do that. Like have random stream rewards. And then everybody has to tune in every day if they want the free.
At the end of the day, I would expect that at any given time...
I'm evil. Yes, I'm evil.
Yes. At any given time, any of the streams could either have a free or not have a free. That is absolutely correct.
Yes.
The only one that is absolutely 100% guaranteed, and the only one we ever say, is Reaper Live. Like, proper.
Yeah.
Since all of this has become the umbrella.
I think it was Pyromancer. Somebody asked who can volunteer. Yes, Reaper actually. I mean, when we do cons, although we've cut back on our con schedule temporarily, I think because we just are so dang busy. But we do look for volunteers, especially at ReaperCon. If you come at ReaperCon, we actually I think have a sign up for volunteers online because we always need help. So I mean, if you guys want to volunteer at a convention, we're good. And sometimes even we'll add on volunteers for Kickstarter fulfillment. But then of course you want to be close, right? If you're going to do that. But at conventions. A lot of people travel to conventions. You might not have a lot planned. You can always, if we're coming, you can always offer to help.
Reaper is my addiction. I'm going to call you, Rima? I'm going to call you Rima for short. I like that. Rima. Actually, I'm working on a channel point system that we can integrate into our website.
What am I doing?
That also, we're working on a more robust system than just points, and we don't want to use the one built into Twitch because it isn't robust enough for us to control, for you guys to use, for extrinsic reasons, like for products from the website, for instance. So we're kind of developing our own systems, all in due time. Just like the Discord, it's all working eventually.
Yeah, really, it's just keeping up with all the stuff that we already have and then adding more stuff on top of that. We have to be careful because we want to follow through with all this stuff, so it can't just be added on and tossed on. We need to make sure that we have like the time and the personnel and the assets.
We are both the development department up here as well as the tech as well.
It's a work in progress, baby.
Yes.
With Reaper, it always has been. You guys just see us so clean and neat on the outside, you don't realize the utter chaos that can happen.
Thank you for the bits, Rax. Also, thank you for the sub customs, and thank you earlier, Malin, for the
There's a
bits.
Winter Wolf that, what's his name, who's streaming on Monday?
Josh.
Josh is painting like a winter encounter thing, so you guys should tune in at 3 on Mondays. I think he's doing it very fast, so it's like really how to get a good encounter set like over the course of just a couple of hours of painting. So it's the quick and fast and neat way to paint, because everything over here, I was looking at it earlier, is very nice and neat, so it would be excellent for game table. I mean, it's really good. And the great thing about painting the way that he does, actually, is that you can set it up really neat and fast. But then if you want it to be slightly better, then you take your time and just hit the little details, add an extra highlight here and there if you like how it's turning out, but you want it a little better. So you can quickie the first stages, which are the most boring anyway, right? And then do, my fancy stuff later if you want the models to look better. So, all right.
I got you, Malin. If we have any stuff up here,
if we got anything,
as far as the tech
switch
department
to minicam,
goes,
will you?
Yeah, I can do that. As far as the tech department goes, we're not actually doing any. I have to come focus that since we had to.
Oh yeah, we moved our camera,
the
so let's
fly.
see. This is it's showing up. We also need to adjust a few things. So hold on, folks. We're adjusting our white balance and our brightness, and right now we have all sorts of different red going on this troll because I wanted to show you like what the reds in our line look like and how they look when you paint them over a white or light gray. A little bit. We're good. I think we're good. Yeah, I think so. This is going to be more of a general stream, so we don't have to get too close. We do need things to be brighter, though. Lighter. Exposure needs to go up.
It needs to be brighter.
Because I can't see. This is just blacked out. That's pretty good. Yeah, there we go. I think that's going to be fine. You can see the color now. It is really dark color. We've gone yellow, everybody. We don't have a streaming Discord yet, Corsair. That is on the list. I think there's an unofficial Reaper Discord. We do want to get one set up, but we do not have one yet. Yeah, I didn't go there, Alto Tempe, but I thought about it. Yes. Yeah, tons of... Exactly, right? Because Proctor likes to paint like that. So I wanted to show you guys our various reds and kind of like how they differ. And give you an idea of how it looks when you start out. Because really, the techniques that you're going to use with red are going to vary depending on if you're thinking, like if you're starting brighter, like this is actually clear red on the right. You can see because it's screaming eyeball red, right? So this is actually clear red. And then a lot of people don't look at the first triad, the red brick, deep red, and blood red triad, but it's a very purple base. So it gives you a slightly cooler red when you start here. That's actually the shadow color. I really think it's pretty. It can also be something that you use the same way you use burgundy wines, so it makes a really good shading color for reds and even for greens, actually. I like shading green with purple. Let me see here. Just trying to... What is the brand of table cam you are using, and are you happy with it? Shooter says.
We do get this question quite a lot, and I think it's a quality camera for when it actually works correctly.
That's always the case, right?
And right now, to be fair, it's held up. We ordered, I thought we had 3 of them. We ordered 2 of them. One was dead on arrival, and this one had some LCD issues with the screen, like a couple of streams in, and hasn't had any issues since. It works fine when it works. Like that's the caveat. When it works, it's perfect.
I bought a newer version of this sort of camera, and I'm about to create some content for my Patreon with it at home. I like how in focus it lets me get and how close it lets me get, and I like that its autofocus doesn't hunt all constantly. Shooter, I'm going to let him look at my newer version of this. We like this sort of camera, I think, but we'll see.
We're also convinced that the two that we were shipped were super used because they came from...
China?
No. It's not that... Technically, they came from Amazon, but we think it came from a not Prime.
Oh, yeah. You can get that when you order from
it's
not
possible,
Amazon.
Yeah, it's possible we got used cameras. So we ordered some brand new ones that we know for sure are brand new, but we also are going to be checking into the camera that you have, Ann.
Yeah.
Once we get it up here and test it.
Yeah, I need to shoot my stuff and get it up here for you.
But to actually answer your question, Shooter, this is the Hovercam 8. I believe is what it's called.
It's a document camera.
Document camera, correct. I mean, it is... I have upped the resolution. I have squeezed more resolution out of it than I feel like it wants to give naturally. But it'll push out 1080, 30 frames. It won't go 60. But,
Mine claims to go even higher than that, so we'll see how mine works. But anyway, so left chest. This one. All right, yes. So let's talk about our different reds. So this is Red Brick 9001, the very first color in Master Series. Can be used a lot like Burgundy Wine. Is a little bit more blue than Burgundy Wine, but makes a great shading color for reds, red or purples, and also for greens, I think. Could probably even shade blue with it. Could be cool. Anyway, if you're starting really dark, then obviously you need to add a lot of layers of other red over the top of it to bring this up to a reddish color. This is Dragon Red, so that's the first color in the Bones line. It's 9401. You can see that it's a lot more of a neutral red. It looks brownish just because it's next to such a blue color, because colors change depending on what you put them next to. I like this as a starting base coat for red because it's not as dark. You don't have to fight to get your red highlights built up over this nearly as much. It's also a nice neutral red that you could highlight either by adding white to your red or by adding yellow. So you could go up toward oranges or you could go up toward pinks. Either way, this is a great red. And it's got decent coverage right out of the bottle. This is Heraldic Red, which is the next color in the Bones line. If you're starting a red, if you want a bright red, you can try starting it lighter instead of darker. I've always liked to start dark and work light, but sometimes it can be hard to push a more brilliant red that way because you have to put more layers on top or you have to do a sneaky technique like underpainting, which we'll talk about in a second. But Heraldic is kind of a good middle-of-the-road red. It's not as screaming bright as clear red. So this you could shade and highlight pretty well just off the bat. You wouldn't have to fight too hard to get it to highlight up. And it's kind of a neutral red. It's actually based off the same pigments as Dragon. Dragon just has more darkening agents in it. So they're very similar, and you can highlight and shade one with the other here. Obviously, clear red is our brightest red. It is only red pigment in a clear base, so it is going to be screaming eyeballs bright when you put it down somewhere. I once saw one person online say that it was the ugliest color we make. I don't know about that, but it's definitely bright. It definitely, to make it be more like a pleasant red that you could enjoy looking at, you would want to add a little bit of black or something to it, or dark brown. But the point is that this is a great highlighting color for red. And if you want to do washes, it is a good starting point because you can do washes over it without taking its brightness down too much. So I'm just putting a little bit, because it's clear red, it did need another coat over the top. So, and once again, I have not removed the mold lines from this model, so you can all make fun of me.
Thank you, Rax, for the tier 1 sub.
Yay, subs!
Or the extension, I should
Yay,
say.
Subs.
Also, Pun Waffle. RTB is just short for Reaper Toolbox because
Jason,
at some point we're going to have to do a big rebranding where we take all of our shows and place them under a different umbrella. But right now it's just Reaper Toolbox. Or room temperature butter. I mean, it's whatever.
Room temperature butter is what I have on my stove at home currently because I'm making cookies tonight.
It's an it's an acronym that I'll leave up to you guys to do whatever you want with. But it does
just
mean
keep it clean, baby.
Keep it clean.
Keep it family friendly. We are a family friendly company.
In this case, you're only ever going to see it when it comes to Ann's Pro Tips show, because it's our light, quick, and fast learning.
Except that we've been anything but light, quick, and fast so far. We have been super slow because we had our technical difficulties start up.
Yeah.
So we're already into like 20 minutes. So all right, well let me give you a little bit of a quickie on painting texture surfaces. Now, obviously, everybody knows washes, right? Do you want me to do a wash? Because I'll do a wash after my clear red falls down, dries off, whatever. In the meantime, we'll just do a standard, like show you guys how to highlight textured surfaces by using the side of your brush. Sneaky. You do not have to dry brush. You can side brush. Leave your paint thicker, just like with dry brushing. get it about 2/3 of the way up the brush, and use the side of your brush. You want the brush to not have an overload of paint, so you want to clean a lot of your paint off your brush. It should come to a natural tip, just like that. It should not puddle, and you can just use the side of your brush to go gently over the top. And if you have cleared the paint off of your brush sufficiently, not as much as you do for dry brushing, because dry brushing you need to have like almost no paint left on your brush. But here, you've got a normal amount of paint, and it essentially will just, by using the side of your brush, you make sure you don't get down in those crevices. You can instead just hit the upper areas, and it's pretty fast and easy. I mean, I'm being careful and slow because I want you guys to see what I'm doing, but it's a very fast technique. This is also a great technique if you don't have the brush control to hit every single strand, but you want to paint hair, and you're painting hair, I'd say almost any type of hair. You can even use this for like curls, although you have to be a little bit more careful. But this is a great way to get highlights on hair done, and if you don't have the brush control to hit all the strands. And I can just keep, now with reds you often have to build up more than one layer if you're going over a darker base coat, because reds don't cover very well, sadly. So you see that. I have globbed a little bit. Actually, yeah, just a little bit of glob. So I can grab, here, let's grab some of our deep red, our 9001. I can even put some darker reds in here. Let me actually thin it down a little bit here. All my paint is like straight up thick because I was putting it on as base coats, so I need my fat mixing brush to put in some water. There we go. I actually do really like purple shadows on red, so I'm going to use 9001 deep or red brick and just actually hit some of these deeper crevices on his chest to make them stand out. Like I gloobed that one a little bit, like I gloobed right there, so I'm going to fix it. But yeah, otherwise side brushing is a really fast technique for fur and hair. You do not want to use real thin paint with it technically, unless you really clean a lot of paint off your brush, because any thin paint, if you have too much on the brush, is going to flow right down into crevices. So it is a slightly thicker paint technique. But yeah, if you can't do this, if you do not have the fine motor to hit the individual strands yet, doing side brushing can set you up, and then you can kind of practice and say, all right, well, I'm going to try to hit some of these strands and bring them up a little higher. So let's see, there we go. Well, let's see, some of this is sculpt and some of this, there we go. And it's more controlled. The reason I like it over dry brushing is that it's more controlled. There you go. There's a nice angle on it. Now you can see it all. Hey, Aaron Perkins. Hey, everybody. Are the clear colors translucent? Yeah, they're not like true inks or dyes, Cyclone. They are very transparent. You can use them over the clear minis, over the transparent minis, especially like using the blue over the light blue or spectral minis, or mixing green and blue, clear green and clear blue for the kind of ghostly greenish blue undead minis. Yes, they're good for shading those. But yes, so let's see. So let's do a little bit of highlighting on that. My clear red is almost dry, so we could throw our wash on it. I also want to show you guys the difference in the reds, because essentially I'm going to do a dragon red wash over this, and I'm going to use clear red to highlight this, or I have been. So you're going to be able to see the really big difference depending on how you base coat red. Your red is going to look really different depending on what color you base it with. I'm going to actually just hit a little bit more clear red on these, and this time I am going to use my fine motor and specifically hit particular areas. When you're highlighting something like this, the nice thing is you don't have to blend with this. You just have to hit the little streaks. And I'm going to mostly concentrate on the upper part of the chest because that's where light would fall. Another thing that makes this really easy, actually the reason these will look so different is the same reason that zenithal highlighting works. And you can overcome it just like with zenithal. If you paint really solidly over your zenithal, you will erase the black and white contrast. So I could eventually work these up and down until they looked very similarly to each other if I put enough paint on the area. But essentially, if you want a darker red, it's good to start dark and work light. And if you want a brighter red, it's often good to start bright and then shade it downward and then highlight. All right, so he's got some nice nice striations there. I'm going to go up with orange, I think. So I'm going to use 9406 Sunrise Orange. Oh, I should put out these colors. Let's see. So here's everything I'm playing with today. And I haven't used deep red yet, but I used red brick.
Further down.
Justin is yelling at me. There. Do. Let's make sure all the skews are up. Skews. Skew.
Perfect.
It's like squee, but skew. All right. So, things we are using. Let me see. Where's my orange? Fireball. So I like highlighting reds with oranges, especially for demonic guys, because it's very fiery and fun. It's a little trickier to highlight with white, because you can go pink really easily. You have to, the key there is to keep your highlights very small. And also, it often helps if you're doing more of a bluish red, more of a purpley red. If you're going to go up with white, it can disguise the pinkishness a bit better, I find, instead of going all bubblegum on you. I'm going to actually do a mixture of about half and half clear red and fireball, but my clear red is very, very strong, so I'm going to actually do a 2-to-1, I think. 2 fireball. We'll see if that's light enough. It's kind of a, there you go. You can see it up near the toolbox logo. It's about there. It looks a little bit more red on the monitor than it really is. Let us do some quick highlights down the middle. Let's see here. Any questions? Not really, not really. All right, good. We'll do our little red highlighting here, and I'm going to stick to the middle of each of these like streaks. And I could do side brushing again if I wanted to. I would risk possibly globbing things up a little bit, but I could. So if I do side brushing, and I'll also put a much lighter coat of paint on if I'm side brushing.
No, I will say you're behind the chat when you paint over there.
Yep, that's fine. I got a correction. So there we go. So just side brush the orange on the top. Gonna grab some of my orange straight up. Gosh, sunrise orange looks so very, very pale and yellowy up against these other oranges. And doing another side brush just for fun. Oh, I got a little bit too much paint on my brush. So right away, guess what? If you put water on it, you can scrub it off. This is the quick fix technique, folks. If you do something you don't like, if it's a smooth surface, you can wipe it off with a finger if you're really fast. However, if it is a textured surface, you need to grab some water and throw it on there. This will keep the paint from setting, and then when you scrub lightly with your brush, it will take up that mistaken brush stroke without taking up the rest of the paint. As long as the rest of your paint is dry, which is why you always want your previous layer to dry before you put on a new layer when you are layering. How do we do a stain on a clear plastic mini so that it looks like emerald? You'd have to use probably traditional artist inks, which are dyes. They're fully soluble, and so they are absolutely clear. That would preserve the clarity of the transparent model. Otherwise, anything else you put on there, if it's got pigment in it, as most modern inks like the Daler Rowney inks do, it will not, you'll lose some of the transparency because the pigment will block the light that is trying to filter through the model. This is the great confusion of our time as painters, is how they have kind of made inks not inks. All right, so there, that's a fireball orange highlight. Let me turn it in the camera and see. There we go. Ooh, there we go. So the orange highlight starts to make it really step up. I'm going to make a wash on this so you guys can see the difference of starting dark and starting light. Yeah, Riot 54 has a good... Anything... Okay, so alcohol-based markers are also dyes, usually. They may or may not have fixative in them to keep them from bleeding. But you can use them the way you would use inks. It's just with inks you can control the strength of the thing by watering it down. It's a little harder to do with an alcohol-based marker unless I expect if you applied extra alcohol right after the fact, but I've not worked with them, so I cannot vouch for that technique. Dragon Red, let's do a wash. Hey, Sigwolf. All right. 1 drop of Dragon Red. And let's make sure I have my, if I don't have my brush on sealer, I'm going to be sad. No, I've got it. Yay, brush on sealer. So Anne's wash formula, lately I've tweaked it. It used to be 3 drops of water, 3 drops of sealer, and 1 drop of paint. But lately I find that I like a little bit of a heavier component of sealer. So when you shake up your sealer, by the way, make sure you shake it up so that you no longer see the little agitator stuck to the bottom. That means that all of the flatting agent that's down here is probably in solution, so it gives you a flatter finish. Likewise, if you want a really satin finish, don't shake your brush on sealer, except more than a couple times, and then just squeeze it out. It will actually be more satin. I'm going to use 4 drops of this, more or less. And then just a couple of brushfuls or drops of water. Where's my water? There it is. Ta-da! Bloop, bloop. And then I'm going to tune it. So this is not a standardized formula. You can use it 100% with every paint. It really varies because every paint varies by coverage and the way the pigment acts. However, this is a good starting point. 4 drops brush on sealer, 1 drop paint, and 2 drops of water. Then you got to kind of look at it. And one of the reasons I really like these well palettes is that I can kind of do a stripe and see how strong it is. That's how much it's going to take down that red. I do want that red taken down though, so I am thinking this might be good. I'm maybe thinking I need 1 more drop of water, maybe. There we go. Yeah, because you want it thin enough to flow well. You don't want it to be kind of jelly if it feels kind of gelish. Yes, Sigwolf, you would. Sorry. If you essentially didn't shake your flattener up and you always squeezed it out and then you only shook it every once in a while, yes, you would end up with too much flattener and you would know because it would frost. That actually was a problem that somebody I knew experienced because they just didn't shake their paints so very well. So they never put the flattener in solution. So when it got down low enough, their sealer went frosty in like the last half of the bottle. No, this is just bones. I washed it before I painted it, so thinner paint works okay on it. All right, so big washes are done with a large brush, as large as you can manage, and full of paint. You can see how full of paint it is. And you start at one end and you go across the model, or down the model, depending. You want to always be working with a wet edge so you get a nice smooth coverage. You want it to pool because we're leaving it thicker on purpose. That's actually what the sealer does, is it keeps it from breaking. And I'm going to judge whether this is a dark enough wash once I'm done, because washes will always dry lighter than they look wet. All right, so that's pooling. You can see already that it didn't take that color down, but you can also see that it is bringing out the details here. So at that point, I'd have to judge, well, do I just need another layer of this, or do I maybe want to put a darker wash on? Yeah. Iliade, all I do is usually I clean it while everything is still wet. And if I'm painting for a long period of time, I'll even saran wrap it, put extra water in the wells just to make sure that they all stay somewhat wet, which means that cleaning out the center of them is easy. I put it in the sink with hot water. I spray Simple Green into that hot water and leave it sit for, I don't know, anywhere from 10 minutes on up to an hour if I forget it. And then I just use a green scrubby pad to take off any excess paint after I rinse the Simple Green off. The Simple Green will loosen up everything. You can also use 409 cleanser. I used to do that. But yeah, it's really easy. These ceramic palettes are lovely because they are so easy to keep clean. I like starting with a fresh, clean palette. It's kind of like a white sheet of paper for drawing. It has endless possibilities. So I do like keeping it clean. So while our wash is drying, but you can already see, right, the difference between, like, these are the same colors that we're using, but because I started really bright here, really light, and I started dark here, you can really see how the quality of the red is very different. This is going to end up looking a lot more smoldering, and this is going to be more of a brilliant red. And I probably would add more shadows to this. The wash is going to take down the brightness of the red a little bit, but I would put targeted shadows. I might take, say, the red brick, and add a little bit of that to the Dragon Red, or thin it down and just apply it exactly where I want it. I don't generally like to do a wash over an entire surface. I like to kind of target zones. Iliade, any all-purpose kitchen cleanser should work. So I don't know if you probably don't have 409 or Simple Green, but if you've got like a general spray bottle cleanser that people use for kitchen counters and sinks and stuff like that, it should work the same. Essentially, you just want something that's going to have an active ingredient that's going to like bring up dried on stuff. And yeah, or pine-based cleaner. Corsair's absolutely on. Just be careful that, it's not like, going to hurt you, like wear gloves if it's the kind of thing that's going to irritate your skin and stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, you can strip some minis with Simple Green too. I never strip minis, so I don't think about it, but usually I just find it easier to just prime over them or paint over them. Stripping is like not worth the time for me. I'm going to make a bit of a wash of this brick red, or red brick, and we're going to target put it on in some areas on that red. And I'll probably use some of my dragon red too. Let's do that. Grab. So usually I don't like washes because they make more work for you. Like here, this isn't too bad. It's set up a basic level of shading. You can see the shadows on the mini. It's not bad at all. But if I were really trying to get back to the color I started with, I'd have a lot of work to paint back because that initial wash has colored all of the underlying area. So usually when I want to shade, and that includes shading reds, I will actually target and just paint exactly where I want the shadow to go. And I'll use an overhead light source to kind of judge where the shadows should go so that I make sure that I'm painting them in the correct areas. Let's see. So I might, it's unfortunately still wet, but I can try to do a little bit. Let's see if I regret this. Grab a real brush. When you're working on larger minis, it does help to use a larger brush for most of your beginning stages until you get to the detail areas. So I'm going to kind of do a little bit of red brick, and I'm going to kind of paint it in here, and maybe I'll kind of get some of these skin striations a little bit. Kind of pull it up. Let's see how that works. Kind of get a little bit of shading there. And if I find that if I do want to blend and I don't really care, there we go.
Yeah, we don't allow links in chat, but you can send them to me, and then obviously if they're on topic, I will post them in chat for you. Just got to make sure that no one does anything,
I see that.
Inappropriate, let's put it that way.
Yeah, used wargaming figures, if you're trying to get a deal, that is one area where you'd probably have to strip, because a lot of people put their paint on full strength and then it's just terrible. I haven't done that for a very long time. All right, so then I'm just going to put a little bit of shadow in here. So yeah, I far prefer, if you're going to start with a wash, then I prefer to come in and actually add a little bit more shading. Yeah, all these are good suggestions. Just as with everything, be very careful. If you're stripping anything that's not metal, be very, very careful, as some stripping agents will absolutely melt resin or plastic or bones, PVC. So be very careful when you are doing that stuff so you don't ruin your miniature. So always test, or ask questions. You can always go and say, hey, okay, this is the model I'm trying to strip, and this is what I think it's made of. What agent should I use? Will this one, destroy it, or is it going to be okay? Eventually, you kind of learn what you can use if you strip minis a lot. When I'm painting, I tend to use really thin paint, so that way if I don't like the color scheme I've got, I just paint over it. All right. And I'll actually highlight this red with a little bit of orange too. So hopefully you guys can see how your starting color with red really influences how it looks at the end of the day, and how much more work you might need to do to get it to a darkness or lightness level that you're happy with. And hopefully the side brushing technique works for you as well. I use it a lot on fine fur, like lions, bears, wolves, to pick out details. Just putting a little bit of orange highlighting on here. And I could use the side brush on here too if I wanted to, just to get a quick highlight on it. And you can see how the orange doesn't stand out as much here, because here you've got a lot of contrast between the dark ground color of the dragon red and the orange highlight. Whereas over here, a lot of this is still lighter, so when I'm adding an orange highlight, it doesn't pop as much. I might even have to go up to yellow to get it to really stand out. Or a really light pink if I was using a white to highlight this. I could also put on a little bit of a stronger highlight. That makes it pop a little bit better. But yeah, so you can see it's very, very different, right? So it's all in how you want it to look. So there's that from the side, the shoulder from the side. So I'm putting in some darker shadows there, and then that ridge does stand out really well. It's all about contrast. It's all about dark and light, making these details stand out. Boom. So if I put orange a bright orange right up against that dark shadow that I did with the red brick, now it stands out really, really well. So it is all in how you, but if you want a dark smoldery color, you want to start with the darker color. All right. Any questions? I'm going to use a little side brush of orange here. Side of my brush, super fast, don't have to worry about hitting details. There we go. All right. Yeah, Pecketum, I actually agree. This guy is a really forgiving mini. His details are well sculpted. Everything is very nicely laid out in segments, and the textures are all very clear, like what each thing is. And because his parts are so angular, you don't have to blend a lot. And when you do try to blend, even if your blending isn't great, the fact that he's got so much texture on the skin will disguise any mistakes you do. Textured surfaces will always hide blending mistakes. It is one of their better qualities. Get the underside of this. All right. Have I used color shifting paints? Corsair, to be very, very frank, I think they're kind of a fad. I played with them. That you can do some cool things on them, but I find they do not look good on smaller models. And the reason is that for color shift to work, you need to put it on a large surface so that you can really see the shift. So I tried it on a Tyranid once, one of the big bug monsters. You could use it like on a big Bethalian monster on the plates. It looks great. I mean, it looks like a beetle. If you want to highlight and shade it, that's where it gets a little dicey, although some companies will kind of offer two different colors using the same shift flake if you look at the actual color shifts, and sometimes you can do that. You can shade them, actually, quite effectively. I would use clears so that you still get a little bit of the effect underneath, and you can just kind of build it up. So, yeah, you could use them. I just find that they'd be great on sci-fi vehicles. They just have a limited usage. Like, yeah, Alto Tempo, they look good on cars, exactly. It looks good on vehicles. A halfling size mini, I don't think you would even notice, Corsair. I think you'd probably, unless you used it on the cape, then it would show. But a lot of keep in mind that as with metallics, a lot of the color shift paints are going to look 50 times better over a dark base coat. So Zenithal may not work because the color shift lighting isn't going to work as well when it hits that white layer. You could try it. It's just on darker base coats usually make the color shift more intense. Yeah. Yeah, not good for flat. Yeah, Miss Timp has it also. Best for curved surfaces because then you can see it easier. Does work better when airbrushed. Oh, doing non-iridescent Sigwolf? Jennifer Haley's done that. I also have done it. Not NII, non-iridescent iridescence. It's not as hard as you think, but you do need to hit your layering. You do need to hit your blending to make it look good. Yeah, Eldar color shift would be awesome. Maybe some Tau Elwindale, depending on the color. The Tau vehicles are really cool that way too. Yeah, we looked at that for a while. There was a true iridescent flake that was offered for water base, but it never took off, so we can't get it anymore. I had some once upon a time. The true iridescent stuff is expensive but neat, and it's different from the color shift. Yeah, it depends, Melodrac. I actually was able to get like 2 coats over a dark purple of the Turbo Dork stuff and got a very good color shift effect on a cloak for the Frost Giant Queen. in bones. I used like the green to purple shift over a dark purple. It looked really good. I was just messing with it to see what I could do with it. But yeah, okay, guys. Well, we're kind of off topic, so I'm going to kind of close this down now. Any other questions on like reds and, you know, starting light and working dark, or starting dark and working light, or side brushing, or any of it, or any pretty color? Look at how pretty this palette is, by the way. It's not pretty. It's so pretty. Badger Reaper deal. Well, if you come to ReaperCon, Badger always has a booth, and they usually have a great con deal. But I don't know about any other deals. Justin, do you know?
I think they're curious about the
Branded?
about the branded one that Ed's working at with
Yeah.
Badger on. I think Ed said he had an update for it tonight, if I'm not mistaken.
Jog his memory, maybe.
Yeah, we'll ask him tonight and see if he actually has something. He may not, but if he does, then we'll all be in for the news, because I would like to know.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest, I kind of want one as well.
Because snazzy.
And I've never airbrushed.
Oh.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, you get Proctor to give you a lesson. He's a really good teacher.
Okay.
All right, guys. Oh, what classes do I think I'll teach at ReaperCon this year? Probably my new color mixing class, which is a color theory. It's a color theory, color mixing mashup, color paint chemistry mashup. It's got all of the sorts of stuff. And then probably my blending class, my layering and glazing class, because I really feel like it's a foundational technique that that people should have in their toolbox. Even if you later decide to go more with textures or whatever, learning how to smooth blend is a good foundation to have. Other than that, not sure. ATX Minis, not sure. Thinking. I have such a full schedule at ReaperCon because of the MSP Open judging and then doing the awards ceremony that often I can only teach a couple of classes.
All right, Miss Ann. Well,
yeah, I think we're done.
Awesome.
And I will be back on Tuesday, my dears. Yay, here I am. Yay! All right. Yay for red. So yeah, I'll be back on Tuesday. I do not remember what our subject matter is for Tuesday. Do you have that email handy?
For Monday? Yeah. Let me see if I've
Tuesday.
got it. For Tuesday, sorry, not Monday.
Yes.
All my days run together now.
Yeah, I know. So I'm giving you a break tomorrow. Also giving me a break tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and Kiri too, because maybe she needs some TLC, you know?
Yeah, poor Kiri's stuck down in my office all alone. Yeah, right. Everybody who walks by pets her. That's why she loves to come to work with me. Could you highlight the red brick with the clear red to get a much better... I would do something in between those, Elwendell. I might do a 50-50 mix of the red brick and the clear red, or I would go to deep red, which is deep red and blood red are the two colors that go with red brick. Deep red might be a little bit dark to put over the red brick. You might not see a lot, but you could go up blood red and then up to clear red. So those are quite... You can see the difference. So yeah. Dog downstairs is Corsair.
We are painting fur.
Oh, are we painting fur?
Yeah, fur cape.
Okay, so yeah, I'll do the dwarf and I'll probably do wolf fur.
Yeah.
And then that'll actually be some wet blending and some side brushing. I need to show us a picture of my puppy. It's internet law. Well, I'll send Justin my favorite Kiri picture and then we can put it up.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I'm going to find a raid for us.
Yeah,
real
it's
quick.
Fulumbar Dwarf is the guy that we're going to be working on Tuesday, guys. So he's one of the first bones. He's the dwarf that came out with one of the first bones. I don't remember his item number, but Fulumbar, Fulumbar, I think.
All right, I got it ready.
Bet. All right, do we have a raid? Do we have a raid?
Yes, we do.
Who are we going to pounce on today?
Jimmy.
Jimmy. All right. Yeah, that sounds good. Jimmy the Brush. Everybody ready to raid Jimmy the Brush? Nice guy. You gotta pounce. Pounce hard. Get him to paint more Reaper.
Oh, they paint a lot of Reaper. They love us. I think.
Good.
I think they do.
Well, you mentioned they were doing mostly Space Marines, and then they started doing a lot of Reaper.
Yeah, they were mainly GW, and then
Raid!
we were like, hey, check out these cool minis.
Thanks! Thank you for hanging out with me this morning. Sorry we had technical difficulties.
Yes. Spread the Reaper love, and
yes.
Thanks for stopping by, guys.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out with us. Have a great day.
Have a great day. And see you for Reaper Live. No, I'm sorry. See you for Painting Platinum, and then Reaper
Yeah,
Live.
Sadie's going to be on this afternoon at 3, and then Reaper Live.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.